Okay, so now we're the second video on the event sequencer, and what we're going to do is we're going to do the regular lamp test initialization. Now here, when the system is off, the red lamp is on. And then we have the yellow lamp blink, blink, blink a number till we get to a terminal count, and then we go green. And all that's adjustable. So what we're going to do, the first thing is we're going to go in here, we're going to change this out. So we can get rid of all these bits. We don't need any of these. And we're going to change that a little bit. So here, we're going to put in another counter. So we have the T1 counter, which is the 3-second lamp test. And now we're going to put in a T2 counter, which is just a half-second counter. And then we need a timer. So these are timers. So timer, half-second. What we'll do is we'll have it blink on, then blink off. So this will be on, off. And we have to keep recycling. So when we see this timeout here, if we're not at terminal count, we're going to have to jump from this point right back immediately to step 2. And then when we get to the terminal count, then we'll complete the sequencer. So we can get rid of those. So really we want, and we'll turn on our green lamp. So it'll be all 3 of them for 3 seconds for lamp tests. Then half-second on, half-second off, half-second on, half-second off. And we'll do that until we reach our terminal count, which is going to be in counter CT1. So let's see, we can get rid of these wait states that we had in there. And we need to load a new step number. So this is DS3, we can put in DS4. And that'll be our new step. Now we need to add addresses because we need to get rid of our steps and we need to get rid of our outputs. So we only need 4 steps to do this. And we only need 3 outputs now. We can put extra outputs if we want, but I think we'll be okay there. So what happens is we go step 1, step 2, step 3, and then when we get to step 4, if we're not at the terminal count, we bounce back to step 2. We keep doing that until we get to the terminal count. So we're going to keep this as is. We'll get rid of this. We don't need this. We get rid of the wait bits. So let's delete this line if we can. Line erase. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go in here. We need a couple things. First is when we're not in start process, we need the red lamp on. So here we'll add a rung. We'll add actually a couple rungs. In the first rung, I'm going to put this in here. I'm going to make this normally closed contact, and this will be our start process C3. So when we aren't started up, we're going to turn on the red lamp. And just as before, we had C9 from the inside the sequencer and then C8 from outside the sequencer to turn on our green lamp. We're going to do the same thing with the red lamp. So I'm going to make this one an output coil, and I'll call this C10. And so when we're not in there, we'll turn that one on. And then from inside the sequence, I'll make this, instead of Y001, I'll make this C11. And what I can do down here is I will copy, well, I'll put a rung afterwards. Now I'll copy this and paste it down here. And now I'll make this one, I said C10 and C11. So this will be C10. Make this one C11. And I'm going to make our output Y001. So again, you never control an output from 2 different places. So now I'll go into my address picker and just put C10 is going to be our red lamp. I'll say red when system off. And then 11, since we called this other one sequencer green, we'll call it sequencer red. And that should be okay for that. Now, kind of got off the track there, but let me do what we wanted. So we have that in there. Now we have to add in something for when we are start process. So that'll be another C3 here. What we want to do is we want to load our new step register with a value of 2. So when we get to 4, we want to go back to 2. So we're going out here and we're going to use the copy instruction. And so the source is 4. Or no, the source is 2 and the destination is DS4. So when we're in the new step, we're going to bounce back to step number 2. So this just puts 2 into there. You notice the copy command is the terminology that Click PLC uses. Most, well, you know, Siemens and Allen Bradley, what they use is a move command, which it's really copy, it's not move. We aren't taking the memory address and, you know, moving it somewhere because we're copying it. The original register still has the same value. So we're okay there. Now what we need to do is we need to put in our new timer. So we'll add a 1 here. And this will be our new timer, which will time when we're in start process. And let's put our timer out here. Now this is just going to be a regular T-on timer that'll recycle itself. And it's going to be a ½ second, so that's 500 milliseconds. So we're going to, oh, that didn't work at all. Oh, okay, so here it is. So here's our second timer. So we're going to run our timer when we're start process, but we also have to make sure that this is timed out. So we're going to put another normally open contact in there, and this will be T1. And then to do our usual recycle itself, we need a normally open contact, and this will be our T2. So when we're started up, and when this is timed out, every time this one times out, it'll recycle itself by re-enabling itself. Now we're going to stop that, so we'll need another normally closed contact when we actually get to the terminal count. So when we get to CT1, that's when we're going to stop. So I think we're okay there. And so we've got our new step. We got this to take care of when our system is off. We got a new step loaded. That's fine. We've got the lab test timer. That's okay. And then we got the blink timer. Now, what we said, well, first let's take care of this new step. So when do we have a new step? We have a new step when we are not at terminal count. So when we're not at CT1. And we are going to use a compare instruction. So we'll put in compare, and when our data in our current step register, so this is DS3, when that data equals 4 is when we want to jump. So that's the current step equals 4. So when it gets to this step 4, if we're not at terminal count, it immediately goes back to step 2, which we loaded into our new step register. So let me line that up. And this is what this line thing for these Click PLCs. This is not the glamorous part of PLC programming, but software is free and it does the job. So that's what we'll go with. Okay, so now we've pretty much got everything we need, except we need our counter in here. So, you know, from the last one, when we said we don't want anything happen simultaneously. And it's not that it won't work, it's just that we get unpredictable results. So we want it to see this T2 strobe before we see the counter go high. So what we're going to do is we've got this T2 signal before the sequencer. We're going to put the terminal count after the sequencer. So we're going to insert a 1 here, and we'll have our normally open contact. That'll be C3. And we are going to count when we see T2. And we'll put our counter on the output. So this will be our CT1. CT1. and we'll give it a terminal count of 8. And this has a reset, so we're going to have to put in our normal system reset is X003. What we always use. We'll line that up. And I think that should be it. So, and we could have used our blink count for, instead of our sequencer done, when we reached the final for blink count, we could have used that for turning on our green lamp also. So it really does make a difference. Again, you can do it several different ways. So let's load this into the PLC. And we'll take a look at how this works. Connect up and load it. Change it to stop, change it back to run, and we should be ready to go. Okay, so now our red lamp is on, which it should be, and it's on as a result of this one. We're not in start process. So what we want to do is we want to look basically at these guys. So we'll be on for 3 seconds, and then we'll see it bounce back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, until we hit the terminal count. So here is our start button. In 3 seconds now, it'll bounce back between these two steps. And there is our sequence complete. There is our green lamp. And that worked out pretty well. So that's the thing that you have to do with your sequencer. Now, you know, in that first video we said be careful about where you have these so they do see an edge trigger. So you have to make sure that, you know, if I had the counter up here, really what happens is this goes high, which makes the terminal count go high. So now you've got both of these high at the same time. And again, you know, we see weird, unpredictable results when you do them like that. So we move the counter to after the sequencer, and then we'll see this timer timeout pulse, the T2. Sequencer sees it first, and then we update the terminal count. So then the next scan comes, and then it sees the terminal count go high. And, you know, that was kind of the lesson learned from the first video. But and, you know, the important thing here was we actually had this loop back in here. So we use this new step to change the pattern. And we're going to do the same thing based on whether it's a white cup or a black cup. You know, we might bubble through for the black cup, and then we want to jump if it's a white cup. Now, also, you know, we'll have to have a second jump for the black cup to jump around the white steps. But that's the way we use the event sequencer, so give it a try. It's a powerful tool, and, you know, again, you might have some trial and errors, but it works pretty well, and once you eventually figure it out, does good stuff for you. So we'll see you next time.